Jeff, first of all, thanks for getting the memo about what to wear for this conversation.
I know, right? Team uniform. I love
it. So we're talking about digital engagement in today's masterclass, and actually Connexus Church, you've made a pretty big pivot when it comes to digital ministry strategy. Can you give us the thinking behind why you've made this move?
Absolutely. And just really looking forward to the opportunity to have the conversation today. I think for us, we had been providing services online for about 5 years. We've done that. And so I would say we were up to our ankles, maybe on the digital church front. And we knew that. And we really did feel like digital was going to be a huge part of the future. And I think we had experimented with some different things along the way. But we couldn't figure out how to staff it. We couldn't figure out how are we going to scale up all the staff that we would need to really do it well. And so if there is a gift from COVID that we would take, it was all of a sudden we had the ability to staff whatever we wanted digitally. And so on one hand, while it was a really challenging time back in March, April for everybody, I was also excited. I mean, I actually got accused by some staff of being overly excited because I was just so excited about the opportunity that was ahead. The other thing that we saw was the things that we had experimented and felt like, oh, they weren't really catching. I'll give you an example, like small groups. We experimented with digital small groups and felt like they didn't really get momentum pre-COVID. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to be online for a group. And so what happened was, the thing that we saw coming, I felt like it was like a 10-year advancement in the church on the digital front all in one day, and we had the staff to do it. And so it was, okay, what is the kind of horsepower that we need to do this? So probably, I would say it was probably 8 days in. I think it was a Friday. I was sitting at my desk 8 or 9 days in and thought, we need to restructure the whole staff. And so I came back on Monday, met with my exec team, and that day I rolled out here, this is a brand new staffing structure. And we basically simplified it, broke the staff at that point into 2 categories. One category was content and communications. I knew enough to know that we were going to have to put out a lot of content really quickly. And our kids in our student ministry weren't yet online in the way they needed to. There'd be a big shift content. So all of a sudden we're going to need a ton of stuff, content pumped out, and we need to communicate it well. And then I knew we would need to connect people really quickly, that we would see a lot of people joining us. We see a lot of groups having to move online, and such a significant number of groups we knew would be the backbone of the church. And so we needed somebody thinking about how are we going to connect people into community, how are we going to connect new guests. And it was bumpy, but we did it. It was like all in one day. We said, here we go. This is what we're doing. We actually weren't on Slack yet. We also moved to Slack that day. It was, hey, by the end of the day, no inter-staff email is allowed. By the end of the day today, everybody's on Slack. And we made that pivot in one day. The team was very, very gracious to me. And I would say once we made that pivot, it allowed us to be able to think differently. And the way I kind of did that, which might be helpful to people, is I called a couple of people I knew who ran online companies to ask them how they structured. So Carey Nieuwhof's a good friend. So obviously I called him and said, how do you do it? My brother-in-law is one of the owners of ArtStation. If anybody wants to check it out, it's like Facebook for digital artists. They work with Industrial Light and Magic and get artists for Star Wars, and he runs it totally online, a massive company. And it really, when you talk to everybody, these were the 2 categories it kind of broke down to.
Wow. So I don't know if people realize this, but your previous boss is Carey Nieuwhof.
That's right.
You became the lead pastor about 5 years ago. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Lead pastor of Connexus, and Carey and I are good friends. I was just texting with him. We talk all the time. We see each other all the time.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I mean, he has a pretty strong digital engagement strategy, I would say. How much of what Carey has experienced on his platform has influenced your thinking related to what needs to happen at Connexus Church, Jeff?
A lot. And the reason is his platform has kind of grown as our church has grown. And so we've spent a lot of time talking about different approaches. And one of the things that I learned from Carey that he talks about all the time, and church leaders don't believe him, is what's really grown Carey's platform is great content, first of all. If you don't have anything good to say, your platform isn't going to grow. You have to actually have something to say. It's not for longevity. Just pumping out content for any reason eventually loses traction. So great content. But the other key that's been at the heart of Carey's platform for years and at the heart of our church is his email list. And growing the email list, getting people on our email list has been the key. I email regularly to our list, and that was a big part of us being able to pivot really, really quickly, was the ability to communicate with a lot of people at the same time and move them forward around our email list. So that would be one of the really big ones. And there are other ones like Lead Magnet we can talk about, and that we've used a few of those things around building a platform that have been a big influence for us, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned email. I mean, it sounds so old school, doesn't it? But I mean, early on in my digital engagement strategy, I was focused on content, and I was trying to get subscribers to my website to follow the posts that would be almost daily in that season, or to increase followers on Facebook or Twitter. And I didn't pay attention to my email list early on. And I remember I was about 5 years ago, I think, I finally had to confess to the rest of my team at the Unstuck group how I made a huge mistake. And from that day forward, our primary focus has been to build that email list, because that's where we're guaranteed to be able to connect with the people we want to connect with. And I love the fact that now you're embracing that focus too as a church.
Yeah, I mean, the really important part of email lists is nobody will ever change the algorithm, that you will always have that email list. Facebook will change the algorithm, YouTube will change the algorithm. Nobody will change the algorithm for your email list. And so the more you build it, and then for us, we're targeting, let's say 25 to 35-year-old male who is in a season of transition in his life, whether he's looking to get married or having his first child. And when it comes to their workplace, they have to pay attention to email. They're not hanging out on Facebook and Instagram or even Snapchat for that matter, or TikTok. They're having to pay attention most of all to email. And so getting on an email list is, I think, how you connect with guys most strategically.
So speaking of TikTok, I'm going to have to come to Canada again to be able to use TikTok.
I know. It'll be black market TikTok from Canada.
All right. So you mentioned some of these platforms, and from our previous conversations, I know that where you are really focusing or have been, at least over these last number of months, on engaging new people, it's been on the YouTube platform. And it sounds like you guys have really gained some traction on that. So can you explain a little bit of why are you focusing on YouTube, and how is that important for who you're trying to reach?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, Justin Piercy, who works with me, deserves a lot of credit for this. He came to me, not this past summer, but the summer before, and he said to me, YouTube is what we need to focus on. We need to put more of what we're doing on YouTube. And I was like, really? Like, the view count is so low? And he said, just give me the summer to organize it and get our page how it should be. And you know what happened, Tony, is I was at home watching my teenage kids and going, all they're doing is watching YouTube. Like, they're on YouTube all the time. And I was like, man, I think he's right. But back then we were trying to get traction as best we could. And it was growing, but growing more slowly. But then we were really well positioned when COVID hit. And so one of the reasons that we jumped on is just because of the age of people who are on YouTube. And I think there are actually different platforms for online Sunday services or even online church that are better depending on where your church is at. We can't talk about that. The other reason is, for us, that's where unchurched people are. if we host a service on our website and then it disappears, there aren't unchurched people coming to our website on Sunday morning, but they are going to look for content. YouTube is one of the places they're going to look for it. And then there's the subscription side of YouTube. So I think if somebody comes to watch church online on our website, and then they're gone, we've got to get them to come back again. But if we can get somebody to subscribe on YouTube, it's just like the email list. You have them likely for the long term. You have the ability to get in front of them more often. And so we push subscription really, really, really hard. We're probably at, I would say, almost 4 times the number of subscribers we had when we started, because we've pushed that really hard. And then the other thing we've learned is a lot of people are watching, when they watch Connexus content online, a lot of them are watching it on their television. YouTube is really just like Netflix on your television. So it's really easy for people to access. So for us, it's been a really great platform because that's where unchurched people are. The algorithm has really worked in our favor, where we've been able to get tons of impressions outside of our service time. And so unchurched people are seeing content, and then the ability for them to subscribe and be a part of our YouTube community for an extended period of time.
All right, you got me intrigued. I'm curious to hear about your theory related to other platforms for different churches.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's early, Tony, and I know not everybody's going to agree with me, but we have a small group of church partners that are smaller than us. And I've been learning from them, and they're all taking different approaches based on where they're at, and we're watching that and learning ourselves. For me, I think Facebook as a sole platform is great if your church has a lot of boomers, Xers in it. We are on Facebook, but we've moved almost everybody to YouTube, except I would say female boomers are the group who are most committed to their Facebook page. That's where they want to be. But everyone else has moved over to YouTube. But if you have a lot of boomers and that's who you're trying to reach, that's a great platform. It's
Focus
highly
on
shareable.
Facebook. Yeah.
And it's highly shareable. Like when you say share this YouTube service live in the moment, that's harder when you're on YouTube, and you can share it more easily on Facebook. So those are a couple of the advantages to Facebook. I think when it comes to church online, that's a fantastic platform, and it's really great if you're trying to rebuild community. So I've seen that with we have one of our church partners that had just launched pre-COVID. And he said to me, I'm really trying to rebuild my core. I'm not trying to reach a whole bunch of other people. I'm trying to rebuild who I have. And if that's what you want to do, church online is probably the best option to do that. It's going to be on your website. Unchurched people aren't necessarily going there on Sunday morning if they're looking to connect, or at other times. They're more likely to be on YouTube. But you're really trying to rebuild a core so you can relaunch. So I think church online is a really good option for that. We've chosen the live option for Sundays, which not everybody has done. It's not like a YouTube premiere. It's actually live. The services are live. I preach at least half, sometimes 2/3 of them live. And so we've really gone with, I'm a big believer in a live Sunday gathering experience that is there for a certain period of time that is gone later. Not everybody is in that camp, but I think everybody has to decide what really needs to be live and why is it important to us that it's live. And there's risk involved in that. We've had the internet go down on a Sunday at our location. We've had power outages. We've had those types of things, but it's worth the risk to be live because it creates that live event experience. We speak right to hey, it's the 8 o'clock service. You guys are up early with your coffee. We're so glad you're here. It's like, oh, wow, they're really talking to me. Like, this is really live. He's really preaching live. And I think we made some mistakes where we did some things that were live that didn't need to be live. It was actually probably detrimental to do them live. That content should have been pre-recorded. And then I think from us, services for us need to be a live event. And I think everybody needs to wrestle through which is which for them and what's the difference between the two for them.